Imagine walking into a wedding where everyone has someone by their side, smiles, laughter, holding hands, and in the farthest corner of the room, a single dad veteran sits alone, staring down at his glass of water, pretending it doesn't hurt. That's exactly where this story begins. But what happens next will leave you inspired, and trust me, you'll want to stay till the end. And if stories of courage, kindness, and second chances touch your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because this one is unforgettable. The wedding was lavish, a grand ballroom filled with chandeliers that shimmered like stars. Music played softly in the background, and families leaned close, sharing laughter. But at table 17, near the back, sat James, a single dad and a decorated veteran. His broad shoulders carried more than just years of service, they carried memories of battles fought, of nights where silence felt heavier than gunfire. He had been invited because his late wife's cousin was the bride, but he hadn't expected to feel so out of place. Everyone had a partner, a story, a hand to hold. Except him. He tried to keep a brave face. His daughter was at home with a babysitter. He didn't want her to see him like this, surrounded by joy but drowning quietly in loneliness. People glanced at him occasionally, but quickly turned away, not knowing how to bridge the gap between their laughter and his solitude. James told himself he was fine. He had survived worse. He had walked through deserts with no water, carried brothers in arms through fire. What was one evening of being invisible? But then, a shadow leaned over his table. He looked up, and there she was, Elena Carter, the CEO of one of the biggest firms in the city. Known for her sharp mind, her elegance, and her presence that commanded every room. She was a guest of the groom's family, and everyone knew her name. James froze, unsure why someone like her would approach him. She bent closer, her voice low, her smile faint but kind. "Pretend you're with me," she whispered. Before James could process her words, Elena slid gracefully into the chair beside him. Heads turned across the room. Murmurs rose. Suddenly, the man sitting alone was no longer invisible. He was beside the woman everyone admired. James, caught off guard, leaned slightly toward her, his soldier's instinct making him whisper back, "Why?" Her eyes softened. "Because I know what it feels like to sit alone at a wedding." That simple confession cracked something open inside him. He hadn't expected someone so powerful, so admired, to know that kind of emptiness. The evening shifted. They talked quietly, their conversation flowing in the midst of clinking glasses and dancing feet. Elena asked about his service, and unlike others who only wanted the dramatic stories, she listened to the pauses, to the weight behind his words. He told her about his daughter, about how she was his reason to keep going, his anchor in every storm. Elena shared her own battles, the loneliness of building an empire, the nights when success felt hollow because there was no one to call when the boardroom lights went dark. At one point, when the slow dance began, Elena stood and held out her hand. James hesitated. He hadn't danced since his wedding day, years ago. His chest tightened at the thought. But her eyes weren't pitying, they were inviting. "Steady." So he took her hand. The two of them stepped onto the dance floor. Whispers stirred around the room, but for James, the world quieted. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not as a veteran carrying scars, not as a single dad struggling to fill two roles, but as a man who still had something to offer. Elena held him with respect, not charity. As the night went on, laughter returned. To his voice, something rusty but real. They didn't pretend anymore, they were simply two souls who understood each other in a room full of noise. When the wedding ended, Elena walked with him to the parking lot. The cool night air wrapped around them. She touched his arm gently. "You don't have to sit alone anymore, James," she said softly. "Not at weddings, not in life." For a moment, his throat tightened. He had faced bullets without fear, but these words made him tremble. "I don't know if I remember how to not be alone," he admitted. She smiled. "Then let's figure it out together." That night, James drove home under the stars with something he hadn't carried in years, hope. His daughter ran to greet him at the door, and for the first time, he whispered to himself that maybe their little family wasn't as incomplete as he thought. Maybe life had just given them a second chance. And to everyone watching this, remember this: sometimes, the strongest warriors are the ones who silently endure loneliness, waiting for someone to notice. Sometimes, all it takes is a whisper, "Pretend you're with me." If this story touched your heart, make sure to like and subscribe, because stories like this remind us that no one deserves to fight their battles alone.